Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you can learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. Hey, I have actually a person I've known for a while here, Kyle Hunt, with me this morning from Remodelers On The Rise. And Kyle, we've known each other for a while, right?
Yeah, a little
So,
while. And when
well,
you say this morning, it's early for you.
well, I usually start at 4:30,
I mean, you
but
look
I'm
great for
done.
this early in the morning.
But I've done it. I've done it like two. I live in Hawaii, right? So it's all good. Um, that's me do other stuff. So, Kyle, let's get a little backstory so the audience knows who you are and why they should listen to you.
Sure. So sometimes people get confused and they think, "Oh, Kyle's in the remodeling world. He must have the skills that a remodeler has," and that is not the case. I can paint a little bit, but that's about it. But where my background comes from is always been kind of entrepreneurial, and landed my first job out of college with a plumbing, heating, cooling, and remodeling company here in Michigan. Through another little entrepreneurial thing I was doing, I got connected with a gentleman who owned that business. And when we finally got connected, he was saying, "Well, I'm looking to create this position in our business, somebody to handle our marketing and advertising. Would you be interested in that?" It was just a perfect fit for what I was looking for. Timing was right coming out of college, senior year. So I had worked for them for a number of years, really digging into marketing budgets and advertising and tracking all of that. Started managing their bath and kitchen remodeling showroom and their four designers, got involved on the financial side of the business. And I turned to my high school sweetheart and wife, Sarah, and I said, "Honey, we got one kid, another one on the way. It is a crappy economy here in Michigan, 2008. We got no money in the bank to fall back on, and I would like to quit this job and start my own business."
She said, "Whatever you say, Kyle," right?
Whatever you say, honey. Like,
That's
as the
right.
years went on and as the business was successful, then of course she's like, "I never had a doubt. Of
Never
course
had
it
a
was."
doubt. No,
Yeah.
it was probably
But
her
to,
idea actually after time,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. But to her credit and to our credit, she was supportive. She kind of knew I had that entrepreneurial itch. So I kind of weaned myself off of my employer. I wasn't making a ton, so that helped too. And put my flag in the ground. About a year after I started my business, I said, "You know what? I'm gonna just work with remodelers." Started doing some, talks at different home builder associations around the state. And what really started with a focus on marketing over the years, we're 15 plus years in now, has really developed into helping remodelers with kind of their full business. A lot of my work is around financials, digging into that side, sales process, marketing, leadership, and love what I do.
You just work with remodelers. That's it, Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with other businesses, but it's one of those of very, very specific kind of niche, almost within a niche. Most all of my clients do kitchens, baths, additions, and that type of work.
Okay, so I've heard of this different contractors have different remodeling like sales processes. So run me through lead generation, get on the phone, and now I guess AI can get on the phone for you actually. And then the phone call, the appointment, the sale. You must have some kind of like standard way you do that, right? For
Yeah.
remodelers.
And you're saying the marketing's already happened, the phone rings, we got a lead.
I'm saying I'm gonna take it from making the phone ring all the way through closing the
Oh,
sale.
all right. So the making the phone ring part. So we'll start with some marketing best practices. One thing I see with a lot of remodelers is, "Hey, what is your marketing plan?" And they sometimes they even see it where they start smiling and they go, "I don't spend anything on marketing and advertising."
What cracks me up, Kyle, it's a badge of courage. It's like is insane. I am a great person because I just answer the phone and do a great job. That makes me a successful remodeler, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
that's
my
not,
marketing
we,
scheme.
we we don't want to have it as a badge of honor. That's not necessarily a good thing. Now,
Right.
if you're wanting to, if you've been in business for a long time, if you are wanting to stay at a similar level of revenue and not really looking to grow, sometimes that approach of just 100% word of mouth repeat work can get you by. But for others, it's that want to grow, it doesn't just
Unless
work.
there's a recession, then it doesn't work. And during the pandemic, it's off.
Hmm.
And now it's not that now it's a little harder because the pandemic, big boom seems to be over. And I know a lot of guys that did, they sort of coasted through the pandemic, like woohoo, I just answered the phone,
Yep.
are now having a little difficulty during this
Yeah.
time.
All of a sudden, the phone is slowing down a little bit. Leads are
Right.
slowing down a little bit. All of a sudden, conversion of those leads to paying projects are becoming more difficult. And yeah, all of a sudden, marketing is becoming something that is coming up more and more and more. So a couple things related to marketing, make sure if you look the same, talk the same, and act the same as everybody else out there, all you're going to do is compete on price. And price is a terrible place to compete. There's always someone willing to go out of business sooner than you. Isn't that right,
Right.
Paul? That's
Absolutely.
right.
The
Okay.
race to the bottom, as they say, right?
Yes, correct. So we have to differentiate ourselves. So on the marketing front, that starts with our marketing messaging and kind of the strategy side. What makes you unique? What is it that's going to, good marketing attracts the right client and it repels the wrong clients. So one thing to kind of dive further into, if you're a remodeler and you're thinking about the marketing side, is not just the tactics, but the marketing strategy. What is your message? What is it that's going to resonate with your ideal client? That's a whole podcast in and of itself, but that's
now,
one thing to think
Now,
about.
Kyle, I've heard all kinds of things from marketing budget. There's a building brand versus paying for leads, that whole thing. So do you have any kind of like, what should a marketing budget be for remodeling as far as percentages or anything?
I mean, percentages are a very, very tough game to play. I've got a remodeling client. One of my biggest clients is doing $20 million of residential remodeling. His marketing budget is well less than 10,000 a year.
Wow.
Wait, how does that work?
Yeah, wait, how does that work?
Been in business for 30 plus years. The great majority of his work is coming from referrals from designers and architects and realtors. It's the relationships with strategic partners that is fueling his business. And then you have on the other end of the spectrum, a client that might be spending 2, 3, 5% of their $1 million of revenue on marketing, on advertising. So the percentage is kind of fool's gold. It's just dependent on a lot of different things. I will say this: if you are a remodeler doing 1.5, 2.5, $2 million, $3 million, and you are spending less than 1% on marketing and advertising, or more likely what I'll see is you're doing like 0.3 of 1%. Let's immediately get that up to 1%. All of a sudden, now you've got another $20,000, $30,000 that you can think through and say, where should I invest these dollars? So if I was to give a percent, let's make sure we're at 1%. Let's be heading a little bit up from there. But also then it depends on longevity in business and the type of marketing. If you're heavy on strategic partners, which I'm a huge proponent of, people that are already sharing the same ideal client as you, if I'm generating a lot of leads from designers and architects and high-end landscapers, yeah, I'm gonna send them a little package in the mail. Yeah, I'm gonna thank them profusely. Yeah, I'm gonna take them out to a nice dinner.
Hey, buy a few lunches here and there, but that
absolutely
doesn't spending a lot of money, right?
Right, but that's different than I'm gonna do a big old radio campaign. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that.
Right.
So percentage-wise, there's my answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple other marketing tactics being staying in touch with our previous clients. Make sure that if you did a project with them 2 years ago, that you're consistently staying top of mind with them. There's repeat work, there's referral work. Look into strategic partners. I've got a lot of training and some podcasts I've done on that topic. Make sure that your website, when you send an ideal client there, that you are very happy that they've arrived. They're not, crap, it's out of date. There's old projects on there. I wish I'd have my new projects on there. I should have a page that details our process. Make sure your website, which is the central hub of your marketing efforts, is something that really represents you well and attracts your ideal client. Dig into search engine optimization as another example of it. And be active. Everybody listening to this, you are a remodeler, you are a contractor, you are also a content creator. It is the year 2023. It is tougher than ever before to cut through the clutter. You need to be thinking, how do we create interesting content related to our remodeling business? And the good news is, just document what you're doing. There are so many interesting things going on, little things you do on job sites, little things you do that differentiate you, little things you do in the design and development process. Just start documenting the process and be consistent with it. Don't ignore it.
So, Kyle, question: how do you feel about using AI to generate content like ChatGPT and things like that?
I think it can be helpful, and I think it can be a bit of a time saver and a shortcut. At the same time, it is going to be good to create content where you might be consistent. Hey, we get 4 posts out a week. Hey, we get this out a week. Cool. Great content that I'm seeing is very video based. is very much, I'm out in the field, I'm showing things. I'm taking, if I think a great piece of content is to show something related to the design development process, I may take a little video of that. I may take a photo of that. And yeah, I could describe it and feed it into AI, and then it could spit out a nice little 3 or 4 sentences. Yes, but on top of that, do not think it is the end all be all. It can be a tool. It can take kind of some rough things and turn it into something a little bit more polished, but it is not a set it and forget it thing. You have to think, what will my ideal client really be attracted to? What will resonate? What will build? Marketing is getting someone who has a need to know, like, and trust you. How can I create more know, like, and trust build?
Okay. Now, marketing is what gets the phone to ring. Sales is what happens after the phone rings, right?
Ding,
so
ding.
let's talk. We've gone marketing. Now we're into sales. Phone rings.
Do you think there were some golden nuggets in that marketing spiel we just talked about, Paul?
I think so.
Do you think people already have takeaways from this podcast?
I would hope so.
Right. If they're not.
I mean, depends. I mean, depends how coachable they are. I mean, if people actually, we're the one generation, well, especially now, that you can have access to all the information in the world on your phone for free, right?
It's true.
So if you're not learning, it's your own fault.
That's true. And if they're listening to this, chances are they've already moved beyond that. And Paul, you have a quick cadence in your voice and you're getting me all excited with all these different questions. So if people need to slow it down to 0.8 speed to hear what we're saying, that's fine too. So the phone rings and we receive that. What does our sales process look like? Number one, I know you can verbally share with me as a new prospect of your remodeling business. I'm calling you related to a kitchen project. I know you can verbally tell me kind of how your process works. And I know that if you did that 10 times, I would probably hear a lot of similarities amongst the 10, but sometimes you'll forget this part. And sometimes the customer started talking over you, so you forgot to mention that part. But for a lot of you, if I were to say, I don't want to hear it, I don't want you to verbally tell me, can you put a piece of paper in my hands, or can you point me to the page on your website that just clearly articulates step by step, this is how we work? And for a lot of you, the answer is no, but that's a good idea. Very clear takeaway for you when it comes to the sales process. Document your process for me as a homeowner to understand it. Initial phone call, initial discovery. What happens during that? We offer a free estimate or a ballpark range based on your project, based as you're describing to me, our years of experience, projects that we've done that are similar in size and scope. Your project's going to range anywhere from here to here. The next step is we can get into the design and development phase. This is the most exciting and the most important phase that most remodelers skip over. We will create some initial designs for you. We will start to walk through some of your initial selections. We will start to develop the scope of work. We will think about the zoning. We will think about the permitting. There's so much upfront work that if you're remodeling properly, and I think you had my boy Brian Kaplan on recently, right?
Yep.
Brian's a good friend of mine and colleague. Brian talked a lot, I think, on that podcast and in the email you sent out related to charging for the design and project development side of things. So listen to that or listen to other trainings I have related to that. But you're hearing kind of the steps in the process. That to me is one of the biggest bang for the buck that I've seen for my clients, taking the process that is kind of fuzzy out there and making it very clear and taking the design and development phase very seriously. And yes, for some of you, you're gasping when I say this, charging for design and development.
I like that. I talked to it, which makes sense to me. He says he turns down 50% of the people that he puts into design process and doesn't do the work. And I went, he goes, because I get to charge whatever the heck I want to, because I got way more people that want my service than I can deliver. He has a slot schedule. And so tell them how to turn away the wrong person. Because I think that's, to me on the phone call, and you put it really well, how do I, scare away the people that I don't want to work with?
Well, one of the ways to do that is to charge for design and development, because those, let's say we have 10 leads. If you were to say, and the next step is we can put some design together, we can develop the scope of work, and that's what we can do next. 10 out of 10 will go, yeah, that sounds great, because they have no skin in the game. So by charging for design development, you're already cutting into that number. By getting the ballpark range out there, you're already cutting into that number. By narrowing down, especially when you have an abundance of leads, as the example you were describing, dividing it down. And you asked earlier, you just work with remodelers? Yes, I do. If somebody called me and they do windows and siding and roofing, at this point, they're not my folks. If they do handyman work, they're not my folks. If they're a plumber, they're not my folks. Because I'm such a specialist, all of my process and all of my coaching is designed around somebody very specific. You can do that on your remodeling side as well. So maybe you're going to start turning down some opportunities based on the type of work, the location of work. So those are the tools that we have. And then, the tougher one would be, this person just does not seem to be our ideal client. They're combative. They're just not understanding the value of design and development. And we might have to tell them, we would love to work with everybody that reaches out to us, but sometimes it's just not a good fit. And in this case, I don't think this is a project that's a great fit for us. So those are the different tools.
Tell me a question that I can ask somebody, then I want to eliminate them. What kind of questions can you ask somebody to find out if they're the right kind of person for you versus somebody who's not?
Yeah, there's a little bit more art than science to that, right? Now you're asking, Kyle, that's cute of everything you said. Give me a specific question.
I'm saying, I got a person calling up and I'm going, is this somebody I want to work with or not? They have the money. I say it's $100,000 kitchen. They got no problem. It's $100,000 kitchen. It's in wherever, Washington, D.C. or someplace. How do I tell they're sort of like can be combative or difficult or one of the kind of people that, this isn't going to be much fun? Because talk about fun.
Yeah. We talk about a good question would be, have you ever remodeled before? If so, how was the experience? Part of this could be, hey, on our initial phone call, instead of a phone call, we do a Zoom call. That would be interesting. You have a whole nother experience there. I would say if it's somebody that's on the borderline of like, I don't know if this is a good fit or not, I'm okay with investing the time to go out, visit their job site, get to know them a little bit more, do a little bit more dating, if you will. And at the end of that, I probably will have a better understanding of it. So it's that's going to be all kinds of interaction. That's going to be seeing the spouses interact. That's going to be, are they following my kind of, plan for the meeting, or are they just interrupting me all the time? So if you're, especially for those ones that you're kind of on the fence for, most likely you might need to invest a little bit more time and get to know them through that. See if they, give them a little piece of homework that says, hey, as a next step, why don't you do the following? See if they actually follow through on that. And then certainly charging for design and development, that's going to be a big barometer if they poo-poo that or if they embrace that. And there's nothing that says that just because they paid you, 4% of the high end of the estimated budget for design development, we still have the opportunity to say, hey, this isn't a great fit. The biggest thing is, we all know that when we're getting that pit in the stomach feeling, it is not usually ever going to get better. And some of the best projects are the ones that we do pass on.
Right. And, as I said, it always gets worse. It never gets better.
Yes.
So if you have, it's kind of like, this is going to work. If you have enough marketing where you can, and ideally turn down half of the projects to go into design development, then your margins are going to be what you want them to be. You're not playing that game, right? Where you're going, well, how little can I do this for, right?
Yep. Yep. So you're hearing a little bit on the sales process. Though I started with just, this is how we work. Get really, really clear with what your process is. Educate the homeowner on that. Charge for design and development. Keep your sales pipeline organized. Set your follow-ups well, and keep in mind your cycle time. You can measure that in a few different ways, but one way would be from the time that you sign the design development agreement to the time you put the first design in front of them, or from the time you even sign the whole contract. What gets measured gets improved. Pay close attention to cycle time. Time kills deals, and the longer it takes to get through that, the lower percentage of signed work you're going to have. But Kyle, 95% of every project that I sign in design development goes on to be a signed contract. Yeah, I heard that in 2020, 2021, 2022. You know what I'm hearing in 2023? A little lower percentage than that. So
maybe, Kyle, maybe if you have enough leads where you can only build half of the stuff you put into design build, just think what your margins could be, right? I mean, but then you got to have an active marketing campaign. So, oh my God, the phone finally rang. I'm desperate, right?
Yes. That's definitely a factor of it. If I have more and more ideal clients coming in, it does make it easier for me to pick and choose the cream of the crop.
And also get the margins you're looking for, obviously, right?
Yep.
So you're like me, a big advocate of getting referrals from architects, designers, people like that. How do you suggest a remodeler get work from architects, designers, people you mentioned, those, third good affiliates or good
Yeah.
references?
Number one, create a list. Well, Kyle, that wasn't very complicated, I know, but everybody skips it. Who do you already know? Let's just focus on architects. Who do you already know? Who do you know through your NARI or HBA group or just being in the industry? Who is the list of 200? No, there's not 200 architects you're after. It's probably for a lot of you 20, maybe 30 names. It's not huge. One of my clients in Ann Arbor, they created it, and Ann Arbor's in a Metro Detroit area. There's about 80 architects. Okay, so create the list first. Number two, you could start this today. Pick up the phone and call one of those architects and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. We knew each other because you were affiliated with this project 2 years ago. I was wondering if I'm just putting a little bit of effort behind getting to know some local architects. I'd love to know the type of work that you're doing, who your ideal client is, and just hear a little bit about your business. It's hard to say no to that. That's
Right.
very much focused on how do I serve them? How do I give them value? That's the other big thing. Figure out, lead with not what they can do for you, but figure out how can I serve these folks, and good things will happen from that. Start building a relationship.
Right. You and I are both big fans of this. One of the things I tell people, it's sort of like they already got a girlfriend and it's not you, right? And it's
Yes.
okay to start there. And I usually say it takes 7 meetings and at least a year sometimes to get work. And unfortunately, a lot of contractors do not have the patience that's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a long-term deal. But
Yep.
we've both proven that it works well, right?
Yes. Yep. Works really well. So Paul,
Okay.
we've talked marketing, a little strategy tactics, talked a little sales process. Do you want to hear a little bit more on the sales process, or you feeling like
I'm
there's some
talking
good nuggets
about,
there?
I'm going to get some things when you go in, everybody has it on, like, how you close, right? So the question would be, I want to hear about knock, knock, you're in the door. How do you walk away with a design agreement in the first meeting?
I would say the biggest key to that is what happens before you arrive at that door. We need to make sure that there is no surprise that we're going to be talking about the design development process. We should be going to that door. They've already seen it on our website. They've already seen it on our contact form they filled out. They've already heard about it on the initial phone call. We've already talked about it in the email we sent them between the initial phone call and the in-person meeting. There is no surprise that the appointment that I'm at there's no cost to this, and here's exactly what we're going to do. And then the next step is our design development phase. So what happens before you get to the home, to me, is the biggest factor in making sure that they're comfortable and kind of ready to move forward with that.
So you might even go as far as telling me that, assuming we get along, we'll expect a check or we'll expect, it's not a big surprise, right?
Correct. Yeah, at the end of it, it could be, there's going to be a couple options. I'll be able to give you a little, kind of confirm the ballpark range we already talked about, or I'll be able to give you a little bit more of a ballpark range once I put eyes on it and we talk about it. And then the next step is either, you have that free estimate and you're happy, cool. Or the next step would be to move into our design and development phase. And like you've seen in the email and you saw on our website, here's exactly what that looks like. So that would be the next step. Most remodelers, when they're doing this well and doing this right, I'm not saying 100% of them, but the great majority of the projects, you are leaving that job site and you don't have any work to do. Isn't that amazing? One of my clients in Minnesota, Tony Hughes, we were talking about this the other day. He's like, Kyle, I used to come off of that appointment and then I'd put together a little bit more of a ballpark detail. I'd sketch this out. I'd write a little bit of scope of work. I'd start putting some numbers to this. I'd leave the home and have multiple hours of work that I would do. And then I would put that back in front of them, still not making a dime at it. And now he is doing what I just described, and he's getting design development agreements signed. And some of the people are happy with that free estimate, that ballpark range, and it's kind of sitting right there. But it's amazing once you start to get a check and once you have them say, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, your confidence in this goes from here way up in a hurry.
Now, Kyle, should you as a company make money on the design agreement, or should be a loss leader?
You ask very nice pointed questions, Paul. And I'm trying not to answer them with, well, it depends. But there's a little bit of depends. There is a mindset that if you're just starting out with this, it's a lost leader. Be happy with a lost leader. If you come back and say, Kyle, I've never charged for design and development. I've always done this nice design, this detailed scope of work, walked them through the selection process, thought about all these different things, coordinated with my trade partners. I've always done that for free. And if you come back with a check for $500, $400, $300, I will celebrate and jump up and down and say, that is amazing. But Kyle, I got 10 hours into this. This is only going to make me $40 an hour. Plus I'm going to pay. No. Doesn't matter. The fact that you're doing it is amazing, because that 500 is going to turn to 750 to 1,000 to 1,200 to 1,500. So usually start building up the confidence. It's probably going to just cover costs. It's probably going to be a little bit of a loss leader for a while. My clients, as they continue in this journey, now it is starting to be a profit center. You look at the P&L for a lot of my clients and you see income, remodeling, and then you see income, design, and development. And all of a sudden now there's 40, 50, 60, $70,000 plus showing up on the top line in the revenue on the P&L. And they're thinking about it much more as a bit of a revenue stream, and something that is making money. But that takes time to get to usually.
So in a perfect world, they actually make money on it, which is they don't deduct it from the cost of the remodel. A lot of people do
For
that.
sure.
It's a separate profit center. Now, how do people deal with the issue that, okay, you're a design build person, I'm an architect, I'm a designer. Don't we have a conflict of interest here?
That's why I love to call it design and development process. If I'm signing a design retainer, a design agreement, what does that sound like? What am I going to do for you?
Design it.
Design it. So now I'm already kind of on my heels. Design and development. When you think of what's involved in the project development phase, the zoning, the permitting, the coordination of all of your trade partners, the trade day, all of the selection process. Yes, the reviewing the design that was created by that designer, created by that architect. Wonderful. So you don't need much on the design side of things. You still need a little bit. You want my eyes on that. But you definitely still need the project development phase. So here's what that looks like. So that's why I like to call it design and project development.
So
it kind of
if you're
puts it in two
meeting, you're meeting with an architect or designer and look at your website, it goes, oh, you're a design build firm. Are you competing with me? Right? So how do you answer that question from a designer? They look at your website, you're coming to them saying, "Let me give you work," and they say, "But you're a design, you're a design."
In this example you're giving me, do I have an in-house designer, or do I
Let's
trade?
make it hard. Yes, say you do.
Oh, well, why'd you have to make it so hard? It's so early still.
I love to make it hard.
Oh, look, if you have an in-house designer, that pitch to that architect or designer is difficult, because for all intents and purposes, you are design build this, and you have an in-house designer, etc. Now, if I have a designer that does kitchens and baths, but when it comes to a addition project, that's not really our cup of tea. I would say, yeah, for a lot of our clients, they reach out to us and we are doing the full design and development phase of things. A lot of times, so if you have an in-house designer, then you don't have a lot to say there. But if you didn't have an in-house designer, yes, from the outside, that's how it looks, but we have various trade partners that we're using to do the design work, to do the architect work. When we have somebody come to us for a full scale addition, that's not something that we handle in-house, and we usually farm that out or sub that out and work with, hand in glove, an outside architect. Or if an architect, or get in front of the conversation, say, look, you work with homeowners and you need somebody to build the project. You can see it on our 6-point architect promise. Go to Fireside Home Construction in Ann Arbor, click on architects. You'll see their it's actually their 9-point architect promise. We will work as your partner, not your rival. We will never undermine your design and make you look bad to your client. Addressing all of these concerns architects have. Again, firesidehomco.com. Click on architects. You'll see the full program that they have.
I like it. I'll steal that one from you for sure. Now, yeah. The next thing, I also find that we can handle small projects like kitchen, but when it comes to sophisticated, difficult projects, we need somebody with your expertise.
Sure.
Because we're just measly little designers. We're not glorified, wonderful, brilliant architects, right?
Yes. And you're adding the, the cherry on top, and you're stroking their ego a little bit, but there's also truth to that. The other thing with architects and designers is, you yes, there's times where we might be able to refer them out, but we can serve an architect really, really well by making the full build side of things go smoothly and keep their clients happy. And I just have this experience and this hunch and this feeling from seeing it that architects, the days of architects designing things that are triple the budget, it's just not happening as much anymore. And homeowners are not interested in that. There's more and more architects and designers that realize I've got to work collaboratively and make sure this project actually comes to fruition on budget and on time. And I've got to have a partner on the build side to make that happen.
And we
And
can have a whole
and 5 architects, they don't care. Those other 2 over there, they might be a good fit for you. So it's also a little bit of that.
Yeah, I see one out of 3 really works out. So we can have a whole discussion about when AI starts designing projects. We'll save that for later. So Kyle, if people are interested in your services, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, one other thing I'll add, we didn't touch on it too much, but more than everything else we talked about, Paul, I love talking numbers, financials, P&L, job costing. So much of business success and remodeling success. You've heard me say it. You've heard 8,000 other people say it. Know your numbers. There's a reason we all say it. You have to dig in and truly understand your profit and loss statement, your overhead amount, your markup, your margin, really, really know your numbers. If people want to reach out to me, business is Remodelers on the Rise, remodelersontherise.com. There's a weekly podcast I do. So if you search Remodelers on the Rise or Kyle Hunt, you'll see that pop up in your favorite podcast app. And I also have something called Remodelers Community. If you go to remodelers with an S community.com, I have a free private Facebook group. There's 1,200, 1,300 folks in there. It is incredibly valuable. Very, very high quality conversations in there. I'm pretty picky with who I let in there, which elevates the conversation. A wonderful resource there.
Now I'm going to leave this little bit of mystery here. What's the autopilot? So they can tell you, because that excited me. So what's
Yes.
autopilot?
Yeah, so
you can let them call you.
Yeah, so that's what you're gonna do. Remodelers Autopilot, done for you, email, newsletter, social media posts. Paul wants you to go look at it, folks.
I think it'd be awesome because it's a great idea for sure.
Yep, works great.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. I appreciate you being here. We'll have to do this again.
Excellent. Thanks for having me.